So I came home from work this last Friday and I see something posted on my front door. I was curious. I thought maybe it was somebody trying to sell something. And then I park my car, I get out of my car, go up to my front door, I pull this notice off my door, and one of my neighbor, I live in an apartment complex, one of the neighbor boys said, "Hey, is that an eviction notice?" And I hadn't looked at it yet. And sure enough, I looked at this piece of paper and it said, "You have 3 days to vacate." I didn't want to lie to the kid. And so I was feeling kind of embarrassed because I've never gotten an eviction notice. And I said, yes, it actually is, but it's a mistake. And he said, "Are you going to be leaving?" I said, "No, I'm not going to be leaving." I would have overreacted to that. And I'm going to share this whole story throughout this podcast. But I realized after that situation, I was able to stay positive, even though it was I'm laughing about it. I wouldn't even talk to people about this situation. I've been so embarrassed about it 4 years ago. But now I can see it's an opportunity to grow and to learn, and I'm not getting evicted. I'm not getting evicted. So today, in the Decide Your Legacy podcast, I'm going to talk to you about going 7 times bigger with your life. So seeing how setbacks are opportunities. And when you have this big vision for your future, little things like getting an eviction notice are not going to be a big deal. So 3 ways for you to go 7 times bigger. I mean, going bigger with your life, seeing what your potential is, dreaming, having this ideal, being willing to say, I can go to a much higher level with what I want to achieve in my life. I have one life. I get to make the most of this or I don't. By the end of this podcast today, you are going to see the benefit of dreaming big. You are going to see that you have opportunities that you haven't actually even grasped. You're going to be willing at the end of this to actually step back and say, just as an exercise, I'm going to think of how good my life can actually be. My relationships, my business, my career, my health, my financial condition, my adventures in life. I love Abraham Lincoln. For years, I had a picture on my wall that said Lincoln's failures. He was somebody that had a vision for the future. That's at least my perception of him. And it listed on this picture all these different failures in his life. He had a business that failed. He ran for public office and he failed. He had his first fiance died. He had to go and self-educate himself. And he continued to persist. That's the goal of having this much bigger, not just a 2 times vision, not just a 5 times vision, but a 7 times vision, a 10 times vision. You go much bigger in your life. He persisted because he had this big vision in his mind. So I'm your host, Adam Gragg. I'm a legacy coach and I'm a family therapist. I have been working in this field for over 25 years and I'm dedicated to helping other people live with courage, people and organizations. And it takes you stepping back to dream to actually get there. I recently faced one fear, and it was to choose to let go of this eviction notice. All right, so to not let it ruin my weekend. It was right at the end of the day. I chose to, right after that, talk to a friend, and now I'm just joking about it because they got paid, all right? So I'm not leaving. I've been there 7.5 years, and I'm going to share the end of this story at the very end of the podcast as well. So you want to stick around to check that out. I struggle with dreaming big because my inner roommate has all kinds of excuses. I'll let myself down if I dream. I'll let other people down if I dream, and I share it with them. Have you seen that in other people? They don't even want to go there. You ask them, well, what do you want in your future? What do you want for your business? And they say, oh, well, I'll never get there. Or they just express this negativity about the situation. And if they go into their business that way, they're going to be repulsing other people because everyone wants to do business with a winner. I know if I've closed something big, then that's a great time for me to call another business because I know I'm going to present myself with confidence in that situation. I'm seeing how good it can actually be because I had a big sale or I had a success with a client, a breakthrough with somebody, and I'm energized by it. You can train yourself to do that every single day, but we get stuck in anxiety and fear and ruminating and focusing on how bad it can be, and I'll never get out of this, I'm never going to make progress, and it'll drive you crazy. Have you seen that in your friends and your family? You just know when you go to them, it's going to be the negative. So we have 3 ways today to break these excuses and to go bigger in your vision, to go bigger with your life. The first way is to get help. Don't go at it alone in this thing, because other people have different attitudes and different strengths, and they're going to help you see your potential. If you keep trying to do it on your own, you're going to get the same brick walls that you run into. Other people's perspectives are going to help you see how good it actually can be. I had a client yesterday. He runs a division of a company. It's $40 million in revenue. And I wrote 7X ideal on my whiteboard, and I said, what does it look like for you? You have 25 years, you got 30 years, you decide the time frame. What is 7 times bigger? And he had $250 million down there. And then we broke it down. He was actually ashamed, or he didn't even want to actually see me write it down, because to him, that was somehow going to hold him accountable to getting there. And I believe this guy can do it. I believe this guy has business opportunities that can get there. He's in a profession where people spend a lot of money on high ticket items, and like a typical project that he's involved in, it can easily be $1 million as a project because it's in the commercial business to business realm. But that to him was scary. And when you get some help, you're going to start getting help from like-minded people, from people who are willing to dream, not from scared Eeyore types. I mean, you're talking to people who are wanting to go big themselves, which I want to go big, so I like to let my clients go big. And in that process, I had him back out of it. So meaning what I asked him is, if you're going to get to a certain level in a year that's leading you towards this ideal, 250 million, well, what has to be true in the next 3 months? And for him, he rattled some things off quickly. It was very clear to him that he needed to focus on very specific tasks. And one of those was he needs to hold people accountable that he leads and do a much better job at that, having courageous conversations. He needs to continue to talk about the vision for other people and have these metrics that lead towards that vision that he's holding people accountable to. And he needs to develop leaders in his departments. And he needs to hire people that are leaders that can lead in these departments. So it was hiring, it was accountability, and it was vision. He had it very clearly spelled out, and we spent the majority of the coaching session talking about this so that he was going to take, and it was him getting help from me. But you can get help from going through a course. You can get help from talking to your friends who are healthy, if that's your ideal. You can get help from talking to your friends who have great marriages, or talking to people who have good relationships, and you want to have relationships like those relationships that you perceive that they have. And you know what? Appearances are deceiving, so you want to actually dig deep to make sure they really do have a good marriage. And you can get a gist. You can get the gist of that as you get closer to them. But get help. Solicit help. It feels good to get help. It's not a sign of weakness. It's actually a sign of tremendous strength when you realize that other people are better at things than you are. And you don't need to be a jack of all trades. I've shared before that I thought I was good at details. I've realized over time that I'm not good at details. I just wanted to be good at details. I want to be when it comes to digging into numbers and when it comes to seeing the nuance in certain things. I'm not good at it, but other people around me are. Thank goodness for that. So the second way that you can have an ideal 7 times vision is to have faith, to get faith. So in my life, when I realize my feelings are not facts, it helps me greatly. Remembering the challenging situations that I've gotten through in my life gives me faith to handle the difficult situations that come my way. So when I got that eviction notice, I was fairly quickly, after a couple hours, I'm not saying it didn't sink in a little bit, kind of scared me. I thought, are they going to be knocking on my door in 2 days and then trying to move me out? Am I going to get a sheriff knocking at my door? But the faith was to remember that I have gotten through very difficult situations with my friends and with my faith. And the faith we're talking about here is that I'm going to make it through, that I can carry myself in these difficult, challenging situations, even when I experience rejection, even when it doesn't go my way, even when I experience situations relationally that I wish were better, even when I feel rejected and abandoned or whatever it may be, I can hold on to the fact that I've gotten through very difficult situations. And those difficult situations can get me through. I went through I went through losing a marriage. I've gone through not getting sleep for long periods of time and ending up in the hospital because I couldn't sleep. I've gotten through almost losing a business because of my own junk. I've gotten through difficult, traumatic situations. I've gotten through anxiety, and you can get through as well. So if you have an eviction notice, which I hope you don't, you can get through. Just pay your rent, first of all. Again, I'm going to share the rest of this story at the end of this. So, and pay your rent, sure, but the faith will get you through. Talking to another client yesterday who has felt like his marriage isn't in a great situation or hasn't been for a period of time. I can at times see him grasp the fact and borrow the hope that I have and the faith that he's had at times in his life to see that it can get better and that there is something good on the other side. It takes two to tango, I get it, but to have hope is so incredibly energizing. You focus on the times where your business was doing better, where your marriage was better, where your relationships with your kids are better, and that gives you hope. And I've gotten through so many things in the past, and I can get through it again. And that'll help me to want to go big, because if I go 7 times bigger, I have the faith and the trust that I can actually get there as I keep moving forward. And it is a process. Lincoln didn't get to the presidency without going through a process. And every step of the way, he didn't give up because he knew that he had something bigger. And it was much bigger. Maybe you don't want to be president, but there's something much bigger for you. Encourage you to dream. And you can do that by, in the course Shatterproof Yourself Light, which I'd encourage you to subscribe to and go through and hit the link to engage in. So one of the first sections, the first section, is to clarify a vision. And I challenge you in there, these little brief 2 to 3 minute videos, I challenge you to start dreaming big about how good your life can be in just 1 year. That exercise is invigorating. And the faith I'm talking about too is you're letting go of these thoughts of saying, this inner roommate chiming in saying it won't work, it won't go well, you won't get there, you're going to fail. You're choosing to let go of that. And so the second way that you can go 7 times bigger is you can start to grasp the fact that you can commit to things in your life. You are willing to go 7 times bigger and to dream when you realize that you have committed to things in your life. That's why the one step that I'll have people take is to just get up on time for 7 days. Just get up on time. In order to get up on time, you got to go to bed on time. And so it's going to motivate you in 2 ends of your day, your bookends. Your bookends are really important. Get up on time tomorrow. Can you do that? Yes, I can. That's going to change and show you can commit to one little thing that can lead to another thing and another thing and another thing. You're proving to yourself that you can commit without perfection. So let's say you say you're going to get up at 6 a.m. and you get up at 6:15. That's still a win. We're not talking about perfection here. When you commit, you're identifying what actions you can take to get towards this ideal vision. Just like this client yesterday. He made a decision at the end of that session to say, I'm committing, and I'm writing it down, to recruiting, because I know that's one of the strategic objectives I must tackle in order for me to get to 250 million. And he was willing to write it down, which was really positive, and I could sense that his creativity was starting to be triggered because he was going 7 times bigger. And that's what happens when you dream. That's why we have to dream so big, because we're letting go of just 2 times, just going small, and we're saying, I'm willing to let go of this smallness, and stuff will happen inside of you where you notice opportunities and people you can ask for help, situations that you didn't even see because you were willing to let go of that anxiety and fear that kept you small and be willing to dream for just a moment. That is really powerful. So you commit. That's the third way. You channel that commitment And on the next podcast that I'm going to record, we're going to talk about a way to commit. It's the daily action worksheet, where this is where I start with clients. This is where I start my day. You commit to this activity, and it's going to make a big difference in your life. I'm going to walk you through that daily action worksheet in the next episode. So that eviction notice, let's go ahead and talk about that for a second. Okay, so I didn't have to leave my apartment. I went, and interestingly enough, that was on a Friday, but on Tuesday, I didn't see my rent taken out of my account. And I went to the office, and we have a new management company. And there's one person that's still on that management team. She was with the old management company, and she's on the new management company. Everybody else is new. So I don't know the people very well, but I know her. And I went in on Tuesday, and I said, my rent hasn't been taken out. And I asked her, and she said, well, it's in process. And so I just let go of that, and I thought, well, it must be in process. I don't see it out of my account. But I was concerned because it's a new management company. It's a new process, the whole thing. And I used to pay with paper check. I've lived there 7.5 years, and I pay my rent. So, and I knew in that interaction, I thought if there was a problem that, well, I'd figure it out. I'd get a phone call or whatever. And they have to deal with lots of people. There's over 200 units in my apartment complex. So I'm not blaming them. It's on me to make sure that transaction actually had happened. I get it. That's why I was willing to pay the $50 late fee. But in that process, some good things happened because I realized it's not that big of a deal. I'm going to get through it. And this is just another thing that I can use to help clients who go through challenging situations. I don't think it's going to go and show up on my credit. Don't really care about my credit score that much anyway, but oh well, I have a good credit score. Who knows? I may need it someday, I guess, but not really a high value thing for me. But I'd like to pay and keep things under wraps. So I wasn't evicted. I still have a place to live, and I still like where I live, all of that. And I now have good ammunition, some stuff to challenge other people. So how to go 7 times bigger. 3 ways. 1, get help. They'll challenge you to go 7 times bigger. Ask for their feedback. They won't let you, these like-minded people, they won't let you stay small. Number 2, get faith. Choose to have faith and remember that you can get through difficult situations and you can get towards that ideal vision. Not perfectly, but you can make steps towards, maybe you go 3 times, but it's much bigger than staying small. And the 3rd way is to commit and trust that you can commit, which will encourage you to see that you can engage this process to go bigger in your life. If you found this content helpful, check out Shatterproof Yourself Light, because that first section is on clarifying a vision, and it's free. And you can download the daily action worksheet. You can download the Shatterproof Light worksheet. You can fill that out, go on it, engage it on your own. This is where I start. In fact, if people are going to work with Decide Your Legacy, I start them here. I have a new potential client coming in tomorrow. I start them here. Someone on my team has somebody there that's potential client. We start them by going through this content. It's going to inspire you and help you greatly. And there's a full version as well. So you'll find that helpful, and you may want to jump in and just engage that full version of Shatterproof Yourself. 7 small steps to a giant leap in your mental health. So nothing will make my day happier than knowing that you have taken some action on this content. Share with me below. Reach out to me. Reach out to my team at Decide Your Legacy. Take action on this content and follow me. There is no positive change until you decide. Deciding means to commit. It means letting go of giving up. And your legacy is what you leave to others when you're gone. It's the impact your life has on other people. You decide your legacy, nobody else. So, in closing, I want to close the same way that I always do. Live the life today that you want to be remembered for 10 years after you're gone. You decide your legacy, nobody else. I appreciate you greatly, and I'll see you next time.